Adopted podcast, where we talk everything adoption. This journey is not one we take alone. Together we grapple with raw emotions that surface from adoption stories. We want you to be comfortable enough to heal. So sit back and go with us on this journey as we dive deep into adoption.
Hey,
Hey,
John. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Doing great.
This is the first time on this platform we're both virtual jumping in.
Yes, I miss sitting next to you.
Absolutely. It's definitely a difference, but it's a good change. This is evolution as a result of what happened in 2020. We have been able to just evolve. And I think this platform will also allow us to get more people in the room with us
Mm-hmm.
to share their story. So definitely excited about that. So what's been going on?
Nothing at all. Um, it's that football time of year, football season. I
Oh,
see
y'all
y'all
play
lost
tonight too. You're
yesterday.
you're you're 49ers fan, so y'all play tonight.
All day, all day. I saw that, y'all didn't start off very good.
I actually went to the game
Washington.
yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
So you saw them lose in person.
Hey, now see, this is being recorded. Don't do that. That's not a good start. That's not a good way to start off, especially because y'all haven't played yet either. And we all remember the choke that y'all gave in the Super Bowl, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, because you wasn't there. You wasn't there. Yeah, Washington wasn't there.
Okay, it's the same as
They were
window
not.
shopping.
We
Same
were
as window
there.
shopping with no money.
We were there.
Oh, okay. Celebrate that. The history book only talks about one team that was there for like 3 or 4 years straight, and that was Buffalo. Nobody's bragging about that because they didn't win anything.
True. True.
Well,
But we was at the party. That's all I could say. We was
okay,
at the party.
that's fine.
But it should be interesting because, what's his name? He's coming back since the Jets quarterback. So we'll see how that goes. He's old. He's 40 years old. So we'll see how that all plays out.
All right.
Should be quite interesting.
Always,
Yes,
always.
always. No, other than that, nothing. Just living life, just watching all that's going on in the world. That's about it. So let's see here. What else is in hot topic in news today?
I mean, football season. You got politics coming. You have a lot of hot button topics. And then today, James Earl Jones died today.
I know. I'm so sorry to hear that. That
He's
I
like the
mean,
voice of our
that's
generation.
a big that's a big loss in Hollywood.
Mhm.
A huge
But
loss in Hollywood.
if you saw Coming to America too, they kind of prepared you for that when he was, in the bed as though he was transitioning. So he was 93 years old. That's a blessing.
Yeah, he was. 93. That is a longevity of a career. And he was always that voice of power and authority. I am
Absolutely.
your father. And because he was um, Mufasa, right? Was he
He was
Mufasa?
Mufasa. It was interesting, that you bring up the Luke Skywalker. That was a non-traditional relationship. Luke grew up this whole time thinking,
That's true.
about his father, and then he had another sister, and well, not another sister, but a sister. So again, this platform of non-traditional relationships and families, it is played out. And I'll be honest, I never looked at it from the standpoint of, oh wow, he's, you know, I can relate to that, because you were
Mhm.
concerned with so many other variables, but that was a very important part of the story.
That is. I personally am not a Star Trek fan. I just know
That's not Star Trek.
the I mean, I meant to say Star Wars. I'm a Star Trek fan. I'm
You're,
not a
you're a
Star
Trekkie?
Wars fan. I am a Trekkie.
Okay.
So I just never really understood all of the different um what do they call
Storylines.
them? Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Okay.
But um we do have someone here today that we are going to speak with.
Okay.
Um it's a young lady. Her name is uh Shakia Simmons, and I'm getting ready to click her in so we can, chat with her and see. Obviously, well, that's not obvious because we do talk to all types of people that has some type of relationship with adults, adults
Okay.
type of relationship with adoptees. So she, I believe, is an actual adoptee.
Oh,
So let me
awesome.
go ahead and click her in.
Let's bring her on in.
And all right. So welcome. This is Shakia Sessoms, and she is also John, just so you know, and also a alumni of our home by the sea,
Okay. All
Hampton
right.
University.
Hate you. Which class?
Yes. Uh 13. Sorry, I could not think.
Okay.
13,
Wh-
13.
What
2013.
name of your class?
Contestant. Uh yeah.
I'm QT3,
Okay. Okay.
and my daughter is,
I can't remember the number, but
so
yeah.
she's QT13, if I'm not mistaken. She's a freshman starting now. Look at
Mhm.
that HU connection. That's good
And
Okay,
I'm
stuff.
Dynasty, the one and only, and will always be the one and only. Also, she has a master's degree with Liberty University.
Okay.
She currently works in production planning and scheduling with Huntington Ingalls Industry. Chakia is married and has a 5-year-old son, which I'm sure he keeps you very, very busy.
Very.
So let's welcome Chakia to the show.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I guess the first question is, tell us about how you came across our platform. That's the first question that we want to know.
So I came across your platform because I'm friends with Jasmine, and
Okay.
one day she had shared something in her story on Instagram. And then when I saw it, I clicked on it and I was like, hold on. I didn't know for one. So that prompted me to go and look at all of the podcast shows that you had done up until that point. And I was surprised because I never knew that about Miss Sapp. And I remember that about you because I remember in church you had shared your testimony at church. But I never knew that about Mrs. Sapp. So when I saw that, I was like, dang, this is pretty cool. I like the whole podcast. And then just hearing other people's stories. Um, and then when you hear other people's stories, and sometimes the stories are identical or, you share similarities. So that is what really intrigued me to reach out and say, I love the podcast. And, I was interested. Yeah.
Okay, so we have some type of a connection with you.
Yes.
Your face your face looks familiar,
Yeah.
but it didn't. Okay,
Mrs.
okay.
Lassiter
Well, your
from Ivy
family.
is my grandmother.
I'm
hmm
about to say the last name. You didn't
Yeah.
pick up on that.
She said Sesums. That's not Lassiter.
Right. It's Sessoms. Yes, my last name is
So I wouldn't
Sessoms,
have. I
but Mrs.
Sesame.
Lassiter is my grandmother.
That's
Okay. That's when you popped up, I recognized the face. So
Okay.
that's why I was like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, Lisa shared her adoption story at the church, but way before I did.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I
Hmm.
definitely
yes.
missed hers, but when I saw it on the
Yeah.
podcast, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never knew this," but it definitely and I was intrigued by it.
Okay. Yeah, your face. Now that you're saying it and you're continue to talk, your face looks familiar.
And for
Definitely.
those that don't know, in podcast world, Jasmine is Lisa's daughter.
Yes.
So I'm gonna put that out.
Yes. Jasmine is my oldest child.
Yes.
That's right. So
Yes.
here's the
Yes.
$1 million question. So tell us when or how did you find out you were adopted, or what's your adoption story, or what is your connection to this platform that we're speaking on? The
Okay.
floor is yours.
Okay. So I was adopted at 9 months. Um, and I was adopted by relatives um, on my mom's side. And so, kind of, when people ask me when did I know, I always like knew. There was never a Like, it was never a secret. It was never, I don't even remember it ever really being like a sit down conversation. I just always knew that that's your real mom. And,
Mm.
we take care of you. You live here with us, but that's your mom. Now, my mom had 4 boys before me. I'm her only girl. And then she had another boy after me. And so all of my brothers, at the time that I was born, my oldest brother, he probably was about maybe teenager, if that. Um, and so her having all of, at that time, 5 kids, and her life was not, I guess, put together. So she had struggles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of struggles of her own that she was dealing with. And so what actually ended up happening was my mom's mom passed away. And you know how the family comes to see everybody, to be with you during that week. So my
Mm-hmm.
adopted family actually came to visit, my mom and everybody. And when they saw me, they were like, "We want to take her. We want her." And from what they say, my mom said, "Okay." So at first, it was just supposed to be until like the funeral, my grandmother's funeral, which was going to be in a couple of days. But when they came back,
Mm-hmm.
um, my dad, per se, my adopted dad, his he previously had twin daughters, and they passed away shortly after birth. So he didn't have children
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Um, at the time, he wasn't married or anything like that anymore either. And so when,
Mm-hmm.
at the time of my grandmother's funeral, he had asked for me, like, "I want her to be my child. I'll take care of her and everything like that." And again, my mom was having such a hard time, so she said, "Yeah." So that was how I became adopted. But like I said, I've never ever not known who my mom was. Throughout the
Okay.
years, I kept in communication with my mom. I still keep in communication with my mom, but it was just like, this, we're your family, but that's your family. And being that they were still related, because my mom and my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother were first cousins. So Um, my biological mom and my adopted grandmother. Let me say that are first cousins.
Your biological
Mom.
mother
Mm-hmm.
and your adoptive
Grandmother.
grandmother
Mm-hmm. Our first cousins.
were first
Mm-hmm.
cousins.
So their moms were
Okay.
sisters.
Got it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's wow. Okay. And it's
I'm
interesting
still trying to
whenever
wrap
you
my
hear,
head around.
Try being a 5 year
you know,
old trying to
it's
explain that to people.
but the fact that you had all that information and were trying to explain it, and so I want to. There's so many questions that I want to ask just to unpack
Right.
it. I guess one of the first ones, because your adopted father had twin girls that had passed away, for him to go into um, the area and say, "I want her to be my daughter," that as a father of girls, I can't. And you might not know. Maybe you asked him like, what was his emotional, um, just in that moment that he would say that.
Mm-hmm.
You know that everything happens for a reason. So
Right.
that's amazing. And then for your first mom to be willing to say, okay, recognizing where she was at, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge. But how did you feel that, knowing that your mom it wasn't a pushback at all when it came to them saying, "Hey, we want to adopt her." How do you, now that you're older and you could really understand the magnitude of being adopted, how did you feel like you didn't, even though it was the right decision to do, but
Mm-hmm.
how did you feel that your mom was like, "Oh, okay."
So it's definitely something that I struggled with for a very long time because, again, my mom had those four older kids, and then she ended up still having another one after me, which she kept. So,
So she kept all of the boys.
yes, yes,
I
she
So
feel
kept
she
you
kept
on that because
everybody but
that's
she
you.
kept everybody except me. So
I
that, and
understand that.
even
Yes.
my grandparents, my adopted grandparents, actually wanted to adopt my younger brother, and my mom wouldn't let him.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that was another layer of like, well, how come, you were okay with me going, but, you're not okay with him? So it has definitely been something that I have struggled with over the years because also the way that the story is always told is like, we asked your mom for you, and then she said, oh, just let me get her clothes together. And boom, it was no hesitation.
Fighting.
So, right.
Right. That's
Yeah. So I've,
you're like, oh, okay.
right.
Okay.
So that has been something that, again, over the years I have struggled with because I just always wonder, like, what was it? Why wasn't there more pushback? And especially me being a mom myself, um, it
Hmm.
makes you wonder, hey, why would you not, fight a little harder for your child and things like that? Um, but um, I think that,
Now, answer me
uh-huh,
this. I'm sorry. Go
you're
ahead.
fine, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. I was thinking, now, do you all have the same father?
No, I have a different father from I have a different father from everyone. Um,
Okay.
the one younger than me, and I have two brothers that one is younger, and then the other one is like 2 years older. They share a father, and then the three older boys share a father. I'm the only one that has a completely different dad. And so
Got it.
that was also something too, because I never had a relationship with him. I never had a relationship with him. I can
But you know who
actually
he
only
is.
remember seeing him once in my life, and I was about 5. And so outside of that, I've never, no conversation, no nothing. And when I was about 19, his brothers, he has brothers, and one of his brothers reached out to my mom and told her that they wanted to meet me. And so then I ended up meeting them, after the fact. But prior to, I
Mm-hmm.
had, and by that time, he was deceased, and he had been deceased for some years, and I never knew. So I have his last name and everything because my adopted parents never ever changed my last name.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. So my next question is, do you do you think this is just me thinking, trying to wrap my head around why it was so easy for your mom to say, "Oh, okay, let me just get her toothbrush and you guys go ahead and take her," so easily? Do you think it had something to do with who your father was, maybe, possibly?
Possibly, but I think more so. So she always says she didn't know what to do with the girl. And so
Mm,
that's always her. She didn't know what to do with the girl. So
got it.
when we've had that conversation, that's the only thing she's ever said. And so, but it could be, I do think that it probably is a bit of both because originally I think my dad or my biological father was living where my mom is from, which is North Carolina. And then
Mhm.
somewhere down the line, he moved to New Jersey, which is where I think he was originally from. So I don't even think they were seeing each other or anything at all.
Mm,
Yeah, they didn't have
Got
any
it.
kind of communication. So,
got it.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I highlight that first point that you brought up that she didn't know what to do with a girl. That's that's real. I mean, having
Mhm.
had boys, and I would have never thought about that,
Hmm.
but being in the mental health field and then having interviewed and working with parents, a lot of times when you have that different child that's not the same as what I've had previously, that takes a lot of I appreciate her transparency and truth in that because it is a transition to when I've been doing and now I have to switch up. So that's again another unique layer that like I'm just
Mhm.
sitting here with all these like wow moments and see through your story.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And even with
so
my
the,
brothers, sorry, even with my
no,
brothers,
no, go ahead.
my mom was, when I say she had things going on, she had things going on. So even with my brothers, you know, they like my three older brothers, they spent a lot of time with her mother before her mom got sick and passed away. So
Mhm.
all of her kids in some way spent a lot of time other places, um, or kind of figuring it out type thing. So I think my situation, it worked out because with a little girl, you just can't have a little girl all around. You have to be very careful
Mhm.
with the daughter.
Mhm.
So I do think that
Mhm.
it worked out. Um, but yeah, just, and there were other people. Since I have been an adult, actually, my husband, he's from where I'm from. And so when I met his family, um, his aunt, who was married to one of his uncles, came up to me. And when she found out who my mom was, she said, "You were supposed to be mine. I asked for you."
Oh,
Wow.
well, they had a bidding war out for you, huh? You can pop your collar on that right there.
And
Okay.
at the time, I
You
was
may not
like,
love me, but there's a lot of
"What?"
other people who do.
Right. I was like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, I asked for you. You were supposed to be mine." And I was just like, she said, and she told me that she used to babysit me and things like that. And, she wanted me. Um, and I was just shocked because I'm like, I don't even know this lady. So it was really
Wow.
eye opening, because in all of that time, I never knew um, that there were other people that, were involved or, you know, saw me and was thinking,
Wanted you.
right.
So let me jump in and I'm sure you have heard this before.
Mhm.
You do recognize that you are a special gift, right? At that age, for that many people to be asking for you,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you're yeah, you already had a blueprint that was supposed to be supported and amazing. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
nugget just for you to tuck away that at a young age, before you even knew, you had earthly angels already assigned to you that were
Yeah.
looking out.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's
They
powerful.
saw something in you. Yeah, that is powerful. Considering the whole situation, they
Yeah.
saw something in you that they wanted to make sure it was protected
Or
in a way,
they were
considering,
being obedient to what God was telling them to do.
yeah,
Either way,
yeah,
it's a positive.
Mhm.
It worked out.
it's a positive. It worked out. Yes, yes. And at the
So
end of the day, I'm sorry, at the end of the day, you could also say that with your mom so nonchalantly, it's like, okay, take her. But she may have had you know, she really cared about you. It didn't seem like it at the time in that sense, but if you think about it, she knew that you needed something better than what she could give you,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
So because people were coming to her saying, "Hey, I want her." So she was like, "Okay, before let me go ahead and get her off before they change their mind or
Mhm.
something."
Right.
So at the end of the
Right.
day, I I feel that our biological mothers, what do you call them, John? First moms?
first
Was it?
moms.
First moms loved us enough to do what they needed to do.
Mhm.
It may not have looked like that from the surface, but deep down, I always feel and I
Right.
believe that they've always had our best interests at heart.
Mhm. I agree. I agree.
That's just
Yep. So here's the next question. With you knowing at such a young age, because you said you always knew, how did it impact you when you got to school and you learned about other family dynamics? Did you have a chip on your shoulder? Were you just not? Were you oblivious to it? Did it impact you at all?
So the thing with that is that, okay, so I told you about my dad who wanted me. Well, then I still didn't end up living with him. I ended up living with his parents. Hmm. So then it added an extra layer because at the time my grandparents were probably in their late 40s. And so here I am
mhm,
at school events and everybody else is with their mom, their dad, and their parents look young. Their parents are vibrant. And then here's my grandmother. And so that added just an extra layer. And then also, my adopted dad um, is in a wheelchair. So then that was also an extra layer because it was just like everywhere I turned, my story was nowhere near black and white or your typical family dynamic. Everything was just very, very
Right.
different.
mhm,
And so that for me, I did struggle a bit because there, like I said, even in watching my friends as I got older, or even younger, watching classmates or watching friends, and hearing them say things about what their mom does with them, and these are all things that
Mm-hmm.
leave an impression. And so that wasn't my story. And so even though I was in a better situation at 5, you're not thinking I'm in a better situation. You're thinking, well, why doesn't my mom
Right.
want me? Well, why don't I live, here with the rest of them, and things like that. And so I shared that I always knew my mom. I also always visited her. I visited her like summers and things like that. So in the summer,
Okay.
when I would go to stay with her, I would be sad because it was different from what I was used to. And then when I would be leaving, I would be sad. There was never a
Wow.
happy medium. Like it was always, and even
Right.
the place where I'm from, for the longest, up until I started dating my husband and um, had my son and things like that, I associated that place with sadness. I hated it. I didn't want to go there. There was nothing in that place for me. And so, even when we would have family functions and things
Wow.
like that, I would go to the family functions, like our family reunions and things like that. But when it was time to go, it was still, even as an adult, it was still that sadness for years. And I'm saying up until maybe 5 years ago, when I finally saw something different from what
Okay.
I remembered it being. So, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So I guess the next question would be, with you having that experience and the sadness and the transitions, how did that shape, or how does it shape your view on family? And as you were approaching motherhood, how, talk to us about your headspace, if you're able to, about, what your mental was having come from your situation. And then, yeah, just where were you at mentally with that?
So, becoming a mom was like the highlights for me. Like, just, it was finally something that was mine. It was finally something that, just a bond that I could have never imagined. And I felt like throughout my life, I was always trying to find that love. And I don't know how your experiences were, but for me personally, being adopted has always come with like a sometimes somewhat guilt, because um, I had my brothers here who felt like she's in this place because of that. And if we were there, we would be in this place. Um, they thought that my life was just so much better, when not knowing that there were things that I envied about their lives, because they had
That. Mm-hmm.
that togetherness that I would never be able to have. And then
Right.
also, it came with this feeling of like forever being indebted to somebody, because again, you pulled me out of this situation. And so now I feel like I owe you everything, and so that
Wow.
has been a process
Wow.
also. And then, so when I had my son, it was just like, this is my one thing that has no, the only thing it has is now the relationship that we have, so there is no
Mm-hmm.
history. There is no nothing. I just get a clean slate of loving someone and someone loving me. And someone loving me
Mm-hmm.
without any strings, anything. This is my one thing that is just mine. And so
Unconditionally. Yes.
it has kind of in some ways, with my husband, I tell him all the time, like, you're jealous of your son. You are. Because me and my son are like this. And I don't know if it's a mom son thing, but it is just a completely different love that I've never had this for anyone in the world. This is my one thing. And so I treat it as such.
And
So yeah.
as you should. I definitely can understand um your how you feel with your son, because that's your blood, and all your other connections to your brothers haven't been that. You haven't had an opportunity, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have a relationship with your
I
brothers?
do have
I
I
didn't.
have a relationship with
Okay.
all of them, and like I have a favorite brother, um
Okay.
and they all know that he's my favorite. And I have a
So
relationship with all of them. However, my brothers' bonds are just way tighter. And it's because they
Right.
were around each other a lot more.
Right.
So I missed out on that part because, we'll just never have that.
I can understand that, because with my siblings, when I was around them and they talk about things that happened in their childhood, you know, I was like, man, I I should have been involved in that,
Yeah.
or I would have been involved in that.
Hmm.
Just that was one of the things that really hit home to me when I was around my biological
Hmm.
family, and they talk about the past, and I wasn't included in that.
Hmm.
That was something that really hurt, struck me
Hmm.
to my core when I hear them talking about that.
Right.
Not taken away from the life that I have, but they bring out old pictures. I'm not
Hmm.
in that old picture,
Right.
awesome.
things of that nature. I would be right there, things of that nature.
Hmm.
So I get it.
So I got a question. You brought up the fact of your husband being jealous, and I dropped my head because no, seriously, and this is something I had to come to terms with. I was jealous of my wife's and daughter's relationship, like when they were babies. I didn't call it jealousy because I didn't. Jealousy is such a bad word,
Hmm.
but it was
Right.
rooted. It was rooted in me being adopted in that, like you said, that ownership, and I felt like, hold on, little baby, you coming in taking my time and my space. Um, but once
Right.
I understood the root of it, once I understood the root, then I was able to deal with it. So, was it a time in you all's relationship between the three of you that you had to explain, like, or did you even know? Look, this is why this is a different connection for me. This is mine, and like, did it cause
Hmm.
any like challenges where you all had to work through it?
I wouldn't say necessarily it caused anything that we had to work through. But there
Okay,
definitely had to be conversations because I could pick up on it. And so because I could pick up on it, I didn't want my son to pick up on it. Or I didn't want, sometimes you can do things and you don't even realize that you're doing it. Um and
Mm-hmm.
so I also realized that because my husband comes from a completely different um, family dynamic than I do. And so even that sometimes is a struggle because when I'm dealing with things, and I'm trying to explain to him, and I feel like this, and he's like, and then you don't understand. You don't understand because you haven't had to go through this. And so I did have to sit down and have that conversation with him, though, that, hey, it's not that I don't love you or I love you any less. It's not that you're not important or, the number one spot. However, this is my thing. This is mine. Um, I love my husband, but let's be honest, husbands, wives, things could happen. My kid
Right.
is my kid. So it was
Exactly.
just that.
Yes.
So it's like, listen, anything, and even with my mom, even though like throughout the years, me and my mom did not have the best relationship. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because she had a lot of struggles, and her struggles, I also think that one of her main struggles is not necessarily accepting um, the choices that she made and the results of the choices that she made. And so we struggled a lot, and I mean a lot, because even when I was younger, there would be things like, I'm gonna come. There would be times when, for one, my mom would disappear and you wouldn't be able to find her, you wouldn't be able to talk to her, anything like that. And so, in those moments, those were moments that were very pivotal to me, because it would be times when I really just needed that connection. Because my adopted family is my adopted family, but because I always knew who my mom was, I was always longing for that affection, that attention, that any little piece of her that I could get, I wanted it. And so because of her struggles, it it just created a barrier. And so for years we had this back and forth, like one minute we would be communicating, the next minute we wouldn't. And so trying to explain that to my husband was also a process of like, I know that you don't understand this because this is just completely different from anything that you've ever experienced. But I just need you to bear with me. I just need you to, know that I love you and you still the man. But this right here is like literally my heart. So, yeah. But we definitely had to have those conversations. Hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I'm thankful and glad that you all were able to have that conversation and that you empowered him to say, "Listen, I still love you," because sometimes as the husbands we get caught up in the weeds and we start taking it personally.
Hmm.
So that's kudos to you on that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does your son know your story?
He does not. He knows that
Okay.
he calls my mom Mimi. So he knows that Mimi is my mom. Um,
Okay.
and he knows that my dad is my dad, but he does not know the story. Um,
But he doesn't know other players. Okay.
right. He knows all the players though.
Okay.
And he has connected with them. You know, he has a relationship with my mom. Our relationship has gotten better since I
Mm-hmm.
became a mom. Um, I'll say initially, when I became a mom, I could not for the life of me understand how you could do this, because as a mom, I couldn't imagine. But throughout the years of being a mom, I've kind of, okay, I can understand now, because I'm a mom of one. I can't imagine being a mom to five. And so
Yeah, I can't either.
like my one is
I
Tear
can't
me
accept.
up. So at least you had three, Miss Lisa. So
I that was a challenge, child. A challenge.
listen, people ask me all the time, "Do you want more?" No. The answer is no. This is it.
Just keep on living. You never know.
You never know. You
Ooh,
never know.
I'm gonna have to
That's
pray on that hard.
but yeah. But do you think that you're saying that you only want one because of your own upbringing?
Hmm. I do. I always said
Okay.
initially, I remember saying that I would adopt a child. This is when I was like younger. And then as time went
Hmm.
on, I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that I could. Um, and so now I do think that it is because of my experience. Because I always question whether or not I have enough love to give, um, more than just that
Mm.
one. And so because I'm just unsure, and I feel like if I had another child, then of course I would. But I just can't even imagine my life with more than one. So I better play it safe and stick to the one. Yeah.
Wow.
But you would adjust. Trust me. You would
Right.
adjust
Hmm.
as they come. You adjust, and then
Right.
it's like having one. But it can be very challenging to have multiples. So respect to your mom for having five. So getting back to that, did
Hmm.
she raise the boys? So they were always with her,
They were not always with her. They were other places also. Like I said, the older three, they spent a lot of time with her mom before her mom passed
right?
away. The younger two, they were with her. I would say they were probably with her more than any of us. Um, but there came a time even for them that like my uncle ended up they ended up moving in with my uncle, and he ended up finishing raising them as they got a little bit older. So it still wasn't, um I wouldn't say that she raised, from baby to high school, any of her kids. um but she would say something different. Let me say that. So I think that's also when I say me and my mom have, just certain barriers, because that is one of the things that I don't think that she necessarily completely lives in her truth. And
Mm.
sometimes I think that, you know, certain parts of the story you would like to blur out. And it's our real life. So, in order to really heal and move forward, you got to tell the whole story.
You got to tell the whole story, and a lot of people remember what they want to remember,
Yes. Yes. And I think that is
and
the
they always try to
part
make it
I struggle with the most.
because she's going to make herself, whether she does it intentionally or intentionally, she's going to try and make herself look better than
Hmm.
in the situation than what it really was,
Right.
you know.
Hmm.
And it's not to say she did it intentionally. It just nature of people, of humans, to kind of always look at things, in a positive light when it comes to negative things.
Right. Hmm.
So I definitely understand that. So yeah, she's not going to say, "Oh, I don't remember that." No, I clearly remember.
Right.
I remember when,
Right.
but
Hmm.
yeah. So I get it. I get it. I get it.
So I would ask this: what advice would you give, because you have a lot of self-awareness about
Mm-hmm.
why you think the way that you think, why you are so connected to your son. What advice would you give to other adoptees that may be going through some of the same things that you went through with their children and trying to um, build that relationship, whether they're overcompensating or just wrestling? Like, what type of advice, with you having been 5 years into the motherhood realm, looking at your journey, what advice could you share to help others?
First and foremost, to be honest, just being honest with yourself, and really processing how you feel. Um,
Right.
and if you can't do that by yourself, then go to therapy. Therapy is like, therapy has been a big help. I've been able to really see the full picture, um, going to therapy and just saying things out loud. But being honest with yourself about why you feel the way that you feel, and forgiving, because for me, and forgiveness looks different for me, I swear, like every day. Because there have been moments when I have had to ask myself, have I really forgiven? Because I still think about it. It still hurts. It still is sensitive to talk about, you know. One day I could talk about it and I'm completely fine. Another day I'm not so fine. So, and when I say forgiving, not just that person, your mom or your dad or whoever, but also forgiving the feelings that you have. Like, it's okay. It's okay to feel like this. And not feeling guilty about it. Because for a very long time, I have walked on eggshells, trying not to hurt people's feelings about how I felt about my
Mm-hmm.
upbringing. And
Right.
the only person who was really hurt from that was me. You know, people are sleeping peacefully at night and I'm up. And so for me, it has been like, even if they don't see it, it's okay. This is my truth. This is what I experience. And me sharing what I experienced doesn't mean that you were the worst parent on the earth, doesn't mean that you didn't do anything for me, doesn't mean that I don't appreciate and love you. It just means that this was my experience. And in order for me to move forward, I have to be honest about that. So,
Mm-hmm.
to anybody else, I would say that, like, just be honest about, you know, if you want to love on your baby extra hard, it's okay to love on your baby extra hard because that is your baby. And for other people who have not had that experience, they may not understand. But communicate, always make sure to communicate whatever it is that you're feeling. Because I'm telling you, even to today, I still have moments. I remember when the Kirk Franklin, um, when his interview came out,
Mm-hmm.
or documentary came out,
Mm-hmm.
I sat and I sobbed, like sobbed, because there were so many
Yeah.
things in there that I could relate to. And it was
Great.
almost like somebody sees. It's not just me. Okay. So other people really are going through this, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of times when it is an adoption by family members, sometimes to me, I think that's harder because you're constantly reliving it all the time. Because when you see them, you know, all of these things. So it's a constant reminder. And I struggled with that so much as a kid. I struggled because I couldn't wrap my head around it. And even to becoming an adult, when I first had my son, like my mom was supposed to be there, I still had this faith, this hope, this she's gonna, you know, this is gonna be different. This is gonna be the thing that makes her see me. This is gonna be the thing that makes us like this. And that thing
Validation.
never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It just never, I kept being disappointed time after time. And so I had to just open my eyes and say, I have to meet her where she is. That's literally it. I have to just meet her where she is. Because not meeting her where she is, I'm the only one constantly hurt.
Wow, she's so wise, John.
I'm about
My
to say,
goodness.
good
It has
gracious.
taken
What?
a lot of time. A lot of
Oh my
time.
goodness.
A lot of time.
I don't I don't have anything to say. I mean, and again, I'm humbled because I'm listening, and like you shared earlier when we first started the interview, you know, you hear other people's story and you hear bits and pieces that are embedded, that are familiar, and just to hear where you are now. And like you said, it's been a process. There's still
Mm-hmm.
days that you have highs and some days that you have lows. And the fact that you said you are an advocate for counseling, it helps. You have to have somebody help you organize your thoughts
Mhm.
and normalize your situation, because we walk around carrying this book bag that others can't understand, nor can they unpack.
Right.
And if we just walk around like we're on that island, it weighs us down and we don't even recognize it.
Hmm.
I mean, you electronically dropped the mic on us on that
Man,
one.
she
It has
did.
taken a long
Oh.
time though, seriously. And it's not, I'm still going through the process. Honestly, I am. My grandmother who raised me was, I call her mom because she raised me and
Mhm.
she literally did everything. And so recently, well, not recently, but in the last 4 years or so, she was diagnosed with dementia. And so she has really been struggling, so much so to the point where we've had to put her into a nursing facility and things like that. And
Mm.
so that has been a struggle because I am literally grieving the one person who has always shown up, and not grieving because she's gone, but grieving because she's not here in the same capacity. And so that has been a struggle because I want to say maybe like 2 weeks ago, it just like a light bulb, it was like a switch. And I was like, that was my person. That has been my person. Out of every, that has been my person. And so that has been a struggle, because so many things, being adopted, again, people see, I, if you're not adopted, you don't necessarily understand, but it has just been different. Let me say that it's been different. So yeah,
Wow.
Wow. Whew. You definitely have given us a lot of what do you call that? Knowledge.
thank you.
It's like you're wise beyond your years because I didn't know until I was much older than you, but at your age, for you to have such a a deep understanding of it all is, I just think is awesome
Thank
how you
you.
have that much understanding of it, the whole thing. Um, so kudos to you for doing the work, you know,
Right.
and that's why we have this platform where people can hear that it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your situation, you know, you can definitely take away from everything that you said, and they can apply it to their lives today. So we definitely want to thank you so much, Shakia, for coming on our little show here,
Thank you for having me.
and sharing your truth,
Right.
and just allowing us to inside of what took place as far as you being adopted and how you felt about the whole thing. And yeah, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
I
for
mean,
having
right now
me.
we're a little bit. Oh no, we're John and I are like, wow. I mean, for you to be so young and be so wise with the adoption is just amazing to us. So thank you.
I want
Um,
to, Lisa. Can I'll jump in? I want to do something.
Absolutely.
I want to do something different, and you're gonna be the first one.
Okay.
You inspired me. Um,
Okay.
this is something that I want to add to our platform as we
Oh,
close out. If you had to use one word to describe your adoption journey from onset until now, what would it be?
One word.
Yeah, I'm making it difficult. One word.
hmm I like it, John. I like it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Boom, 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 boom,
Uh,
boom.
Different. Different.
Different.
Yes.
Different. Okay. All right. And no justification. I just
Mhm.
want to hear the word because what I want to do is just start building language
Okay.
that just different words that people use for their journey. It's not that you have to explain it, you don't have to justify it. Because I think a lot of times carrying that backpack, we feel like we have to justify.
Hmm.
So I want to create a space where, because what you've done, you've unpacked a lot. And that transparency, we want to land it with whatever word you want to tie that bow to put on top of it and be able to walk away with a smile because I know your story is going to bless a lot of people. It blessed
Yes,
I
us
hope.
sitting here tonight.
I hope so. I really
Yeah, it
do.
it did.
has.
It really has. It really has allowed me to think about my own journey. So thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you
you.
so much for
So
coming
Lisa,
on.
when you do the description, you got to put her name and then in parentheses put different. That'll be her tag.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I like
That's
it.
awesome.
I will do that. Yes. So again, I'm Lisa.
I'm John.
Shakia.
And we
And
are
we are
all adopted.
adopted.
Adopted. Yes.
Thank
Thank you
y'all
so
very
much for
much.
having
Okay,
me.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes,
Blessings.
thank you.
Good.
Until next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to the So I'm Adopted podcast. We hope that this was informative and educational. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at So I'm Adopted. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, So I'm Adopted. And again, thank you for listening. And until next time, make the choice to begin your healing journey.